the Tarot Talk on the Tarot Encounters Network. It's a Monday night. Thanks so much for joining me. You know Tarot Tim is in the house with me today from Dover, Delaware. Hi, Tim.
Hey, Rebecca. Hey, everybody. Gonna be a good show.
And I'm broadcasting from beautiful hills of Northern California. It's been a crazy week, and it's about to start up again. So some days I forget it's Monday, Tim, because today's my day off. It's my weekend. But for everybody else, the week has just started. So let's hope it's a good one. And joining us today, my very special guest is Heather Mendel. She's an artist, author, teacher, speaker. She does it all. She's the creator of the Syzygy Oracle. And here she is with us. Hi, Heather.
Hi. Very nice to be with you both again.
Yes, yes. We last spoke with Heather when we were with Blog Talk Radio back in the fall. It's really almost been a year, honestly, since we last had you on. So it's great, to talk with you again. And that conversation is archived on our website, thetarottalk.com, where you can access all of our past shows, including our Blog Talk stuff. And that conversation was so great. And I know we covered the tarot and the divine feminine and so many things. And it was such a quick show that we didn't get a chance to talk about the Kabbalah side of it. So I'm so happy to have you back, Heather. Thank you for joining us again, where we can kind of pick up where we left off. But tell the viewers a little bit about yourself.
Well, thank you very much, Rebecca. The last show we did together was a lot of fun, and I know we didn't have time to finish everything that we had said we were going to, so thank you for this opportunity to do it. This is the first one for me, doing a Skyped one, and so I'm excited. They say when something happens for the first time, you say a special blessing, thanking the divine for a new opportunity. So thank you for bringing this to me. As you said, I bring together my own passions of calligraphy, art, and the mystical in the work that I do, and my latest book, the Syzygy Oracle, is a reinterpretation of the tarot, the major arcana of the tarot, that looks at the search for the sacred feminine. Thank you, Tim. There's the cover to the book. It brings together a search for the sacred feminine, the teachings of Jewish mysticism or Kabbalah, and the hero's journey, all interpreting or reinterpreting the tarot for contemporary spiritual seekers.
Yes, and it's a great deck. It just blends all kinds of elements, and it's just amazing. We love it. Yes, that's the Syzygy Oracle, Transformational Tarot, and the Tree of Life, available now at, I believe Amazon carries it, right, Heather? But it's even better to go on your website and get it, heathermendel.com. We'll have those links up on our website for sure. So, Heather, talk to us a little bit about how Kabbalah is different from the tarot, and then how the two work together as you see it, like how you've blended the two in your Syzygy Oracle deck.
You got that right this time. I know, Rebecca, it's a terrible name, but it came from an inspiration. I think whatever spiritual tool one uses, one is drawn into a central pool that is common to all spiritual traditions. I think all religions are based on the spiritual pool. And so being raised Jewish and being a mystic by nature, my interest in Judaism was to the Kabbalah. And once I started really delving into it, other spiritual traditions, bringing Kabbalah and tarot together was an adventure that I had no idea I was embarking on. But when one puts one's foot onto the spiritual path, you have no idea where it's going to lead. I think it was Annalise Nin who said, we don't see the world as it is, we see the world as we are. And so when I looked at the major arcana and I realized that there were 22 cards, my immediate association was with the 22 Hebrew letters, and as a mystic with the 22 pathways on the Tree of Life, that peculiar design of interconnected circles that is used really to explain the interrelationship of any organic system.
Yes, and the two work so well together. Yes.
They seem to be. I'm certainly not the first person who's seen a connection between tarot and Kabbalah. What I've seen in the past is that certainly the connection of the 22 rings true for many people. I've seen people using tarot cards with a layout that is like the Tree of Life, placing 10 cards, going down from top to bottom, showing the 3 columns and the 7 horizontal pathways. But when I looked at it as a seeker, a 21st century woman seeker, I was looking to see, I wanted to make this journey through the Tree of Life not linear from top to bottom or back up from the bottom to the top, but a circular journey that would take us back to where we started with an awakened consciousness, which is what I believe our journey as spiritual beings in a human body is really all about.
Well, that's what I love about your deck, the Syzygy Oracle. I feel like it's not linear. That's the circular nature of things. The journey is just such a central theme. And I think that in many tarot decks that you may know that, in your mind that tarot is not linear and it can't be read in a linear way. But I feel that a lot of decks still, just with the art and the concepts, it's still very linear, which is maybe why I feel, even beginner decks like the Rider-Waite can be hard to read with, because it is linear. You have a concept of tarot which is not linear, but you have a linear deck. But if that makes sense, and I feel like your deck, the themes are very much flowing and circular, and it's apparent that the cards can go anywhere in any place, and that's what I love about it. It's very
combining that also with the hero's journey that I think really does explain so much about the cycles that are within the cycle of our own lives. We can find ourselves at different points on the Tree of Life and within the circle. We're doing different things at different times. We may be starting new relationships and ending something within our work life. We may be igniting a new passion, and we may be coming to the end of something that we were doing before. So if we look at the tarot cards and we look at the Tree of Life and the way that I've placed them on the tree in the circular fashion, I think that we will realize that there are aspects of our lives at any given moment that respond to many more than just one card at one time. What I love about the Kabbalah and the Tree of Life in particular is that it shows us that at all times we're trying to balance the opposites. In the chart behind me that you wanted to make sure we could show, Rebecca, really I've tried to show this as day and night, as dark and light, as our essence, our soul energy, and our ego being what is very necessary for us to use in order to navigate through our physical life. And I've identified that with solar energy. We do need an ego, and we can talk about what ego means. What we also need is the essence of who we are. And I think what Kabbalah is teaching, I think what tarot invites us to consider, that in everything we do, we need to blend both ego and essence to bring out the full truth and beauty of who each of us is.
Yes, and I love that. And I would love to have a discussion on ego and essence, because really that's the magician and the high priestess to me. I don't know how you feel about it, but yeah, it's the foundation of everything. And without ego, you're going to drown in those subconscious waters. You're going to go mad. But I want to discuss Kabbalah. I'm afraid if we get on that topic, we're not going to come back, because it's so interesting and I love it. But okay, so let's do the Kabbalah and make sure, but blending that, maybe using the ego as a starting point. So then, yeah.
Yes. I think that when we're talking about Kabbalah, let's first try and define what we're talking about. Every spiritual tradition, or every religious tradition, should I say, has an inner mystical face or facet. Within the Jewish religion, that mystical facet is called a Kabbalah, which is not one thing. You can't go to a store and buy Kabbalah, but you can buy books of a Kabbalistic nature. In other words, the spiritual essence of the teaching that comes through Jewish phrases, through Jewish words. In many instances in the past, the study of Kabbalah was only supposed to be for males who were 40 years of age, and males who were well versed in Torah. Well, if we look at that now, certainly I'm breaking several of the rules, not all of them, because at this age I've passed my 40th birthday. However, I was interested in this a very long time ago and realized your physical age doesn't really have much to do with where your spiritual journey takes you. However, Kabbalah, being a very multi-layered and multifaceted, deep pool of wisdom, requires that we have our feet on the ground when we study, also requires that we have a certain maturity, that we're not going to be flying off in tangents like you and I could do, Rebecca, when we talk about dreams and ego and Kabbalah and tarot. I mean, it's all there. So certainly we're asked to be grounded. To be male and to be the only one who can study Kabbalah is a thing that I think that many women mystics are really dispensing with for obvious reasons. In the past, maybe this energy was supposed to be translated in a very logical, linear fashion, as some experts on Kabbalah try to expound even now. However, as a woman, and for somebody who likes to take these things from the heart, I think that when we try to get at the teachings of Kabbalah or Jewish mysticism from a more intuitive aspect, not using so much logic and rationality, but our dreams, our feelings, our synchronicities, we get to the same truths, but in a different path, a different way. And I think what's wonderful about our present state of consciousness is that we're learning that even though left linear, rational thought was considered the only valid pathway to wisdom, we're now beginning to understand it's one way, it's an ego-centered way, ego in a healthy way, meaning that it's physically bound, it's what we need to navigate time and space. But at the same time, we are creatures who have a very deep intuition, dream world, inner realm, ego, essence, the opposite of ego, and when we bring those two together, we approach this huge body of wisdom or Jewish mysticism with a different perspective, going from the heart rather than from the head.
Yes, and I love that. So when it comes to tarot and Kabbalah and this tree of life, where are we starting the journey?
Okay, so what I did was when I looked at the traditional tarot, and we start with 0 and the Fool, and we end up with the final 22nd card of the world, I thought to myself, going with the Hebrew alphabet, I'm starting with Aleph as number 1 and ending with Taf as number 22, rather than bringing in the concept of 0. But starting at the tree of life and not wanting to go from top to bottom, what I did is start at the very top point, which in Hebrew is known as Keter. I've translated as intuition, imagination, inspiration. It's where everything in physicality begins, where we come from the unmanifest into the manifest. And then we travel down these pathways between the 10 spherot, those circular areas. There are 22 pathways. And what I did in placing the cards quite arbitrarily or inspiredly on the particular pathways, I look at how once an idea is born, it sparks out of that first sphera. The first card I call initiating. It's when somebody begins, whether it's beginning our lives, beginning a new relationship, beginning a new interest. It's whereas tarot, thank you very much, Tim. It's whereas tarot readers, we all know we're talking about initiating something new. When you look at the hero's journey, as well as Kabbalah and tarot, we realize that as we come into our lives, we are given certain gifts by our mentors who help us to be able to gather a set of tools that will allow us to experience and understand the challenges that come later in our lives. So we look at the magician who gives us magic, who gives us belief, who gives us a sense of the extraordinary in everything we do, which is the second card in my deck. We go down the solar side of the tree where ego energy is being built, and we look at the mentors who give us all the things that we need, love and faith and courage and heart and companionship and a sense of the religious and a sense of the spiritual, the tools that we need before we hear the call to our own individuality, which for me is what happens with card 7 in my deck with the Lovers. Because not only does this talk about the meeting of two people and relationship, but I think that in our own lives, as our call to action, as we hear that call to what makes us feel passionate about wanting to move into something new, we respond to that with anima and animus, with masculine and feminine energies coming together and moving out of our home or our faith or our community in which we were raised to experience the world anew.
Yeah, and I love that you have the Lovers in that position because, because it is Lovers. It's that blending, and often, one reads Lovers as a relationship or literally as love, but it's more esoteric. Spiritual side is that blending of the two. Yeah, masculine with the feminine. Just this really divine, blending, alchemy. It's very cool.
Thank you. And I think that's what really religious traditions are talking to us about, because I think that we're all raised in communities of one kind or another. For some, there's a religious element to it. For others, spiritual. For others, none. But there comes a point in our own development, whether it's when we meet trauma, whether it's when we suddenly have questions about who we are and why we are here, we're looking for a connection to something deeper. That, to me, is the call of the lover, the passion within that we need to expand and move out. We are moving in our journey from the very top of the tree towards the bottom, gathering the tools of the mentors, the gifts that we've got, until we get, to me, card 11, which is where the wheels really turn. It's the wheel of life. It's talking about nothing staying the same, everything changing, and when we start to understand that, I think we are then ready to take the journey back up the left side of the tree, where we're starting to concentrate. Thank you, Tim. That's wonderful. The card that Tim actually held up, my Wheel of Fortune, like all the other cards, is done on a black background because I really honor the mystery of the unknown in everything that we're doing. To the black, I add color and light, and in this particular card that Tim showed up, I have 8 female figures diving backwards over a central sphere in which the seeds of the pomegranate are focused. Thanks, Tim. The seeds of the pomegranate talking about the story of Persephone, who happens to be the heroine of this particular archetype, reminding us nothing stays the same. We grow, we mature, and with each experience, we become more of who we are. We expand, we can't go back. When we start moving into the second half of the journey, we're getting opportunities to meet what we call threshold guardians in the hero's journey, opportunities to try out and see what we've learned from the gifts that the mentors have given us. How do we deal with loss? How do we deal with anger? How do we deal with fear? We can come through all of these lessons with the gifts that we've got. Some of us take longer. Some of us find we get stuck in these things and cannot progress and move on. But once we transform, once we move through these various stages and realize that life continues, that the loss card, the one that causes everybody problems, the death card, for me, deck number 14 in my deck, where we're showing releasing what needs to be let go of. For many of us, this idea, thank you, Tim, the idea of death in my card is not a skeleton marching over bodies on a horse, but rather a female figure keening in grief as the tree loses its leaf and she's beneath the bare branches, not realizing that once she can look up and she can see there's a green leaf above her, that life will continue, that the dawn is breaking in the east. Once she realizes that death is not the end, and when we refer to death in this context, as you well know, not necessarily physical death, but the endings that all of us have to release in order to move on, we are then in a position to move to card 15, which is the transformation card, showing that we are gathering all that we have got to move into the latter stages of our own evolution.
Right, to move on, to grow. And we've said it many times on the show because one of the things that Tim and I like to do is kind of demystify and debunk the myth surrounding the death card, the devil, things like that. And yeah, especially with death, I mean, thank goodness some things end. Thank goodness things end, like your crappy job or your cruddy relationship or even the long day that you just had at work. I mean, thank God some things end. So yeah, I love that interpretation in your deck. It's so hopeful, and it's all about transformation. I love that.
I mentioned the devil because I think that is one of the cards that really made me want to reinterpret this from a Jewish point of view. For a Christian audience, the devil has a particular connotation that within Judaism is totally meaningless. So when I looked at that, and I looked at the Hierophant, and I looked at some of the Christian iconography that I saw in the cards, as a Jew, I felt that this was not really welcoming to me. However, looking beneath that, I could see that this was a series of visually impactful messages about a spiritual truth that was still calling to me. And if I could remove what appeared to me to be Christian symbols and replace them with more universal ones, I could find my own way through the tarot. And so the devil card becomes constriction, where through our own fear and our own angst, we tie ourselves up in knots and we cannot see that nothing is holding us back other than fear itself. And when we can drop the mask, release the binds that are holding us, we can move forward. There we go. Thanks so much, Tim. That we are able to move forward and go on with our journey, having once encountered this devil card or this constriction, we recognize it more easily next time and won't tarry as long because we know that we can bring ourselves out of it.
So I have a question then, because I don't know much about Judaism. So the devil, so within this religion, you don't believe in the devil well, obviously not in a Christian sense, because then you would be Christian, but there is no really devil figure then in Judaism?
In Judaism, we believe that we all have the opportunity to fulfill everything that is within us. Sometimes we just miss the mark. We don't believe in an external force that is out there tempting us or egging us on, but we ourselves in our own journey, we do sometimes miss the mark. Rosh Hashanah, which is the Jewish New Year, is a time in which we consider everything that's happened in the past year, and we realize that before we can go and sign up for another year of blessings, we need to really look at where we did miss the mark. If we've hurt anybody, if we've done anything that we do not feel comfortable about, it's up to us to try and make amends for that, apologize if we can. Sometimes we can't. We think about relationships with people who are no longer alive, with our parents who we may have misjudged, thinking that they knew nothing at the time, whatever the situation is. But we make amends in our hearts, and when we do that, we open ourselves up by realizing that we've gone astray from the best that is within us, and then we try a little harder. We'll make more mistakes in the coming year. We'll miss the mark again. But Judaism does not carry this heavy burden of sinful behavior as something that we are sort of born into, with the need for salvation in the way that Christians understand it. And so for many of the kind of concepts of tarot, I felt an outsider into all of this, but felt I could still understand the truth of what was there. So don't feel bad when you say, Rebecca, you don't know, about Judaism, because a lot of people don't know. But no, there is no outside devil figure, but we let ourselves down when we do not live up to the highest that is within ourselves.
Right. And I love that. Yeah, I love that whole concept. And I grew up very devoutly Christian, very church 2-3 times a week. I mean, I knew, Bible like the back of my hand. So this is other religions are very new to me, but I love reading about them. And as you can see, I'm off in the tarot world and off in the mysticism, and it's really opened the door for me to so many things for a while now. But yeah, I mean, I do know enough to know that heaven and hell and the devil is a very concept that's very kind of special, I guess, to Christianity. I mean, many faiths just don't have this. Yeah.
Well, I think too, because we live in such a predominantly Christian environment, people don't realize that others do believe differently. And yes, certainly for Jews, we do not believe in a heaven or hell, other than the fact that we create heaven or hell right where we are by the way that we behave. We believe that when we die, the physical body goes back to the earth that gave it, and the spirit returns to God, or divine, who gave it. But no going to a place in which we're condemned. We do terrible things right here, and we need to make amends right here by changing our consciousness and therefore changing our behavior. So what you're saying, I'm sure, is what many people who will listen to this program feel. They don't have the basics. I have an interesting problem with anything that's described as Judeo-Christian, because it sounds so wonderful. It sounds like we're taking notice of our Jewish roots and we're now going to put this forward in a Christian way, which sounds wonderful. But in reality, when one takes concepts out of Judaism and translates them in another way, they lose their Jewish essence. For example, many years ago, I was taking part in a workshop at a university in California, and there was a whole team of women who were involved in religion and spirituality. And the young woman, who I think was from an Episcopal church, said, well, one thing that we've all got in common is that we're all interested in salvation. And I thought to myself, that's really interesting. It's taking for granted that we all believe there's some sort of damnation that we're involved in right now. No, for Jews, we don't really believe that, but we do believe that we have problems we need to solve, we need to go on, but not because we're going to go to a better place. Because in this physical realm, we have the opportunity to do what is right, to make the world better, and that will make the hell of our own lives into a more heavenly existence, if that makes any sense.
No, it absolutely makes sense, and I love that, and I think it's great, and it's part of the reason why I'm not a Christian any longer, because about 10 years ago or so, you know, just with all the reading and the studying and just everything, my eyes were kind of open to these new ways of thinking, and I just could no longer be a piece of this religion that to me is very narrow, I guess is a way of putting it. And so it stopped making sense. And so, no, what you say definitely makes sense to me.
Well, you know what I've learned certainly from my own Jewish traditions, which is very much who I am, is to learn to respect the backgrounds from which we all come. And then to respect our journey out of them. With that journey, we take the parts that are of value with us. In my earlier book, Dancing in the Footsteps of Eve, I spoke about taking the teachings of our fathers that to me are the inclusive ones. Anything that's exclusive is something from a previous age and needs to be left behind. But anything that talks about the heart and compassion we all have for one another, the sameness that we all are, each one of us, a divine spark in a human body. My divine spark is no more or less important than Rebecca's or Tim's or Eric's. We all have that same divine spark that is manifesting in a totally unique way. We've been given this gift of this totally unique experience in which to express the spiritual gift of who we are. And so nobody will ever be exactly like who we are at this moment in this time. So we take that, we appreciate it, but then we come to say, as Hindus do to each other, namaste, the soul within me recognizes the soul within you, whatever your background or no spiritual religious background. As individuals, we look in each other's eyes, appreciate what brought us to be who we are and what we can do together to make this world better. Because when we watch the news, like I did just before we came on this program, boy, does the world need us.
I know.
Yeah.
Well,
You know,
go ahead, Tim.
I heard something, I don't even know where I heard it years and years ago, and it's so interesting with the concepts of, you know, good and evil and heaven and hell, and was that hell was being in heaven and being too stupid to realize it.
I like that.
Don't even know where I heard it, but it's one of those things that it resonated.
Yeah.
And I do believe, because I have studied a little bit of the Kabbalah and the Buddhism and Native American spirituality, and I think that anything that speaks to you as a truth, you should embrace it, and anything that doesn't resonate, you should let it fall away, because we are universally spiritual if we let ourselves be.
Absolutely. And I think in doing so, we honor the traditions out of which we come, not the mine is better than yours and I am more godly or whatever than you are, but really to understand and appreciate the essence out of which we come, and then treasure coming through those barriers that you mentioned on the Facebook page, Tim, this morning, this card 20, illuminating, when we suddenly realize these barriers that we create ourselves. I'm different from you, you're a man, I'm a woman, you're gay, I'm straight, you're tall, I'm short, whatever, thank you. We realize that these are really illusionary barriers that we create for ourselves that often wall us in, until our consciousness starts to awaken and we realize that we are all the same human family. The cards have taken us on this journey from the initiate all the way through the trials and tribulations and blessings we've experienced, almost to the end of the deck where we're back near the top of the tree, where we realize that what we believe is what we get. You know, in computer talk, they say what you see is what you get. But I say, WYBIWYG, what you believe is what you get. And we wall ourselves in with so many of these beliefs about our differences instead of embracing the similarities that make us all family. And when we realize that, and we can step right through the wall, that we realize it's not really made of anything concrete, we can see our path ahead, and we can follow both the sun, the solar energy, developing our ego, and the lunar energy, developing our essence. Combine those and bring the fullness of who we were blessed to be, to make this world a little better because we are in it.
Yeah, the illuminating card, it's the card in the deck that I'm always drawn to.
Yeah.
I love your deck, and well, as you know, I'm on your page all the time. Every day you do a card of the day, and it's fabulous. What I've found very interesting and helpful for me is to pull a card from your deck and then take the corresponding card from the tarot.
Wonderful.
And you get the whole picture.
Right.
You know, because they do complement each other. And
well,
it's
I'm so glad that you say that, Tim, because that's where the cards came from. It was taking and really looking at those cards, but again, as I said, looking at them sometimes from an outsider's eye because of my own Jewish background, trying to get the essence of what they say. And so what you're doing is what I hope every tarot user would do. Both of those cards hold truth in them. If you read between them, to me it's like the masculine and the feminine of the cards, neither one being the whole story, but when you blend the two together, you get the essence that speaks individually to you, which will be different from how it speaks individually to Rebecca or to myself, but we find our own truth that resonates, because that card talks about I resonate. And when you know something is true, it rings within you. You don't have to have it proved by any scientist. You know when it's right, and that's what the card speaks to.
Well, and I love that, because it's the ultimate, it's what the Fool's Journey is, that blending of ego and essence. The Sun tarot card, then the next stage, the Moon, and then that ultimate judgment where you are able to transcend that and step through, that barrier into the world, which is freedom. Like there's so much freedom, I think, in that blending of the ego and the essence, and realizing that you're not apart. I love that.
And then, Rebecca, just as Tim held up for us card 11, just as we believe we've got it all together and we know it all, back comes something that will look us right in the face and say, really? You think you've got it together? How are you with this? They say anybody who thinks they're enlightened should spend Thanksgiving with their own families. See how enlightened they feel after that experience. But we keep on... each time we've mastered one of these experiences and we celebrate the joy of our own success, the next challenge is waiting for us, not to say that it's pulling us down, but we come to it with a more enlightened way of approaching it. We learn something else. We have another rough edge that's kind of just ground down to make us the jewel that we really are. But the grinding is necessary or our light doesn't shine.
Oh, absolutely. And that's the cosmic design. We're here to learn. We're here to evolve. Well, should we choose that, I should say. Plenty of people walk away from their responsibility, from the design, you know. But it's, yeah, absolutely.
Well,
I think sometimes...
Sorry, Tim, go ahead.
I think sometimes we make things difficult when they don't have to be in our evolution, because we're taught that if it's worth it, it has to be difficult and hard, and you've got to, you know, earn it. And sometimes if you listen to spirit and you follow the path, you'll find things fall into place. Like, not that everything's happy and you're skipping through daisies, but it's much easier to navigate if you look at it as an opportunity as opposed to like this difficult challenge you have to win.
Well, you know what? I think that really goes back to the magician and card too, because it's what we believe. If you believe that life has to be suffered through and burdensome and you have to be ground down, I think you're going to find that in your life. Thank you. There she is, the Magus herself, where we're talking about what your belief system is that takes, you know, the air, the earth, the water, the fire, the letters of the alphabet, the geometric shapes, what we do to put that together to create our own belief system. If one believes that really things can come easily, will fall into place if we pay attention to the intuitive. Because, Rebecca, to go back to your initial question, what is Kabbalah and the tarot? We're being asked to develop our intuitive sense to be equal to our intellectual capacities. And when we use whatever tools we have, to learn to trust that intuition, to trust those synchronicities, those hunches, those dream images that bring to us an awareness that there's something more to all of this than meets our eyes and the five senses would have us believe, we are coming to a realization that life doesn't have to be hard. Rebecca mentioned a few moments ago, it's all a matter of choice. And that, to me, there we go. There she sits between the two trees. The high priestess is sitting there holding the scroll of all that was, is, and shall be. We are given the opportunity at every turn to choose. And this tree of life is about choice. Because as you look at it, you'll see there are three columns. There's an extreme on one side, an extreme on the other side, and a central path. Unless we have the two polarities, we can't choose, because everything is given to us. We're like automatons following a pattern. But when we are given a pathway that runs between the two polarities, in everything we say, we think, we do, we have a choice as to how we're going to express who we are. When we miss the mark and we don't do it so well, when we become conscious of that, we have a chance of doing it again. We have a chance of reforming our belief system, of reforming who we think we are in the world. We talked about ego very early, and ego's got a bad rap in many ways. It's bad to have an ego, and it's bad to be full of yourself. That may be one interpretation of ego, but I think for anybody who's working in the esoteric field, ego is the essence of who our physicality is, how our essence is trying to express. And so we need to come with a healthy appreciation for the need for ego in equal partnership to the essence of who we are, and blend these two as we move forward to express everything that we have been placed here at this time, this space, to be able to do in order to make the world a little better, because we're in it.
I would like to go back to the Wheel of Fortune, because I like what you had to say when you said that the wheel really is honoring the mystery of the unknown, because things are always changing as we change and as we perceive, like you said, not the world as it is, but as we are. I'd like to go back to that, because in your deck, the Wheel of Fortune is 11, correct? Right. So this put it halfway between, in the line of 22. Right. Okay. Right. So do you see the wheel then as kind of the launch pad, the acceptance and the honoring of the unknown really as like a launch pad into these higher, I don't know if I want to say higher, but into the second phase of the tarot line and the Tree of Life?
let's say deeper rather than higher, yes. But I think in many ways it is. I see card 7 or the Lovers as the call to passion, the call to express ourselves, the call to move away from home. I think that when we get to card 11, and a lot of people get confused because they are aware that in the tarot decks, the numbering is different because it starts with 0. All my numbers seem to be one off. I'm going with the Hebrew alphabet of Aleph being 1 and so on. Yes, so this Wheel of Fortune is the halfway mark. All of the cards are on a black background, which honors the mystery of who we are. But when our consciousness reaches a stage that we open to the fact that as much as we say we all want improvement, yet none of us want change, we all know change is what we're going to get, whether we like it or not. So when things are going really well, don't talk to me about change. Everything's fine. I want to leave it just as it is. When things are not so good, this idea of change is what we hold on to and helps us get through. So I think, yes, we do become aware of the mystery once we can see that the course of our lives we are guaranteed is going to be changing. As you said, Rebecca, some things need to come to an end. We may not see that, and when it happens, we fight and scream all the way, holding on to what it was, and when we finally do mature enough to release it and realize its time has come, we can see the gifts that we get in letting go because there's something better that's waiting. But we all like the familiar. We all like what we're comfortable with. And this card, which I've associated with Persephone and the going down into the underworld, but returning not as she was, but returning as a more matured individual, reminds us in times of change to try and just reach some state of equanimity about it. It's happening to all of us. The change is going to happen. When things are really good, we will let go so something even better can happen. When things are really bad, there's light at the end of the tunnel. This card 11, the wheel, doesn't come at the end of the deck. It comes midway so that we know that there are more experiences, more mentors. The cards 19, 20, 21, and 22, celebration, illumination, recognition of who we are and all we've achieved is still coming. But that one is a hard one for us to deal with, as then the death card and the loss card and things that talk about the things that make life more challenging for all of us at different points in our life journey.
Well, and I think that's what makes the Wheel of Fortune in your deck so unique, is that, you know, in a lot of decks or concepts, the Wheel of Fortune is change and like a revolving door, but it's lucky, it's fortunate. I feel like your interpretation adds another crucial layer to that, in that we're not just being open to change or receptive to change, but we're actually honoring change and honoring the unknown. And I think that is so powerful and so key to spirituality and a spiritual journey. And I just think that's great. And it really opens the door for the deepening of the
and I think that's to the magician again, for me, the magus. Again, asking us all through every one of these cards, what do we believe? Because what we believe is what we're going to get. When we look at the 12th card, I'm just looking, there's a little hummingbird outside my window. That's my totem. It's just arrived, so I'm really happy. When we look at the card which talks about the gentling of the lion, anger, fear, these are things that run within all of us. These are the powerful energies that we have. There we go. She's gentling that lion. She's not trying to push the lion down. She's embracing it. Just as particularly for women, it's been very difficult to learn to express our anger in a socially acceptable way, or a way in which we can express it and move on rather than just explode and then what do we do with all the pieces? For men and women, how do we express our fear? We can't run from it. We need to feel it. We need to sense where it takes us. And how do we find our way out of that? It's mysterious. It's unknown. But it's all part of the journey. And if we believe we're being guided and we believe there's help for us and we believe there's light at the end of the tunnel, I think we go through these experiences in a much different framework than when we are so trapped by our own fear, our own emotion, that we become immobilized.
Mm-hmm. Well, we become immobilized and others are able to then use it, you know, against us even. Yeah, we're manipulated by it in so many ways. Yeah. I'm sorry, go ahead, Tim.
I think that this card is where so many people now, and especially females, kind of go off the track, because instead of harnessing it and using the power and everything, they just think that they have to cause the scene and be loud and scream, and that's powerful, when that's really not power, that's fear.
Yeah. I think that power comes from within, and there's a power within all of us. I think for women, because of the history of the last 5,000 years, so much of the female experience has been one that has not encouraged women or the female energy in men to express fully and to acknowledge we all do get angry, but we have to find ways of expressing that anger in a constructive way, that we all express. We all feel fear at different times. As I said, turn on the news. There's plenty to be fearful about. But what do? Immobilize ourselves because of the fear that's around us? Or say, this is as much as I can do right now. How do I process this? How do I move through that? And how do I inspire other people also not to succumb to everything that's going on around us all the time that can really sap our energy? Carolyn Mace portrays this so beautifully when she says that the human being has, if you like, 100 points of energy to use every day. If we plug 50 of those into fear-based things, we're operating on 50% of our energy. What a waste. What a waste. Rather just channel these things within ourselves, gentle the lion, look at how we do these things constructively so that we can move on up to card 15, which talks about the alchemy, the transformation, the moving forward into becoming, releasing the butterflies from our hearts, releasing the soul energy. Thank you, Tim. I don't know what we would have done without you tonight, but releasing these, the energy of who we are to suddenly become the expression of both the essence and the ego that we were given, and combining those to make this world magically, to turn the lead into gold, because of who we are and what we are given.
Right. Well, and it sounds simple. It sounds like a simple process. It sounds a little fluffy even, but it's really not. Like, it's really not. It's very difficult, that kind of transformation.
With my approach to the tarot, that is very different, I know, for a lot of people. But what I thought I would try and do was make it into a practical spiritual practice. So I was not using the card so much as a prognostication or a fortune-telling device, but as a spiritual practice, as Tim said, and I think he does it just right, to draw one of these cards and another tarot card or another oracle card, see what they say to focus your spiritual energy for the day. I've given 7 different layers of ways of trying to harness the energy that each card talks about. I tell stories, I give magic of the number and the patterning, I talk about the letter, I talk about an archetype and a mentor, exercises that we can do, journaling, everything as we go. And I think that in doing this, one learns the cards if you want to then use them as fortune-telling devices. Or for many of us who are involved in tarot, it's not so much that aspect as a tool for introspection, to understand ourselves, to understand each other. And again, I go back to the very Jewish concept of then making this world better because of who we are, how we relate to ourselves, express ourselves, and encourage others to express the best that is in them as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that.
I think that's why, like, the illuminating, we've talked about before, and Rebecca does this, the one word that is you as a tarot reader. Illumination is my word, because my job is to help people to see into those areas that maybe they can't see. So it's shining a light into what is darkness, because the darkness for some people is scary, even though it's not. It's warm and enveloping, but you have to help people to understand that. So that resonates for me.
I'm glad, Tim, and in doing what you're doing and the work that you're doing, to even help one person to get to that point, to look within that darkness, just to be, to experience, to feel that, and to allow something good. Everything starts in the dark. At the very beginning of the Syzygy Oracle, talk about everything germinates in the darkness, whether it's new ideas, spark at the top of the tree, out of the mysterious unknown darkness that enveloped creation before the light came, comes this one little spark out of which everything evolves. So in that darkness, there are many seeds waiting to germinate. And sometimes it's just holding the hand of a friend like yourself, Tim, who can lead somebody to look at this and see where it's going to go, where it's going to take them, to realize all the joys and treasures that are really there, that we can bring forward in expressing the full joy of who we are.
Thank you.
Yeah, I love that.
I highly, highly recommend that y'all get this deck and this book and find out the truth that speaks to you, because it's a beautiful way of learning another layer.
Thank you, Tim, and I really appreciate. We have a Facebook page or group that's operating called Conscious Transformation, where we're welcoming. I think today's people who joined are from Turkey, so we're getting a community from all over the world who is joining. Again, it reaffirms this idea. There's so much that we have in common. And on this particular website, to which all of your listeners or viewers are welcome to try and join us, we talk about Kabbalah, we talk about intuition, we talk about spirituality, all the inclusive things that join us as one particular family. We would welcome anybody who wishes to join us there. I'm really grateful for this opportunity to talk about the Syzygy Oracle. And Tim, it's always wonderful to see your name pop up on the website. Rebecca, I just really bless you and Tim for what you're doing with the program that you're doing and bringing light into the world in the way that you're doing it. It's really great, and I'm most appreciative that you've given me 2 opportunities to talk and now to be seen with you. It's wonderful.
Oh, thank you, Heather. The pleasure is certainly ours. You are such a teacher and a speaker, and I always learn so much from your wisdom. So thank you for coming back on the show and being with us. Heather's interactive Facebook group, Conscious Transformation, Kabbalah, Intuition, and Spirituality. We will have a link up on the website, tarottalk.com, for that. Heather, how can the viewers get in touch with you?
Certainly through that page, you're welcome to make contact. My website is a mouthful. It's www.sacredfemininekabbalah.com, which I hope you will have in written form, or just heathermendel.com, HeatherMendel, heathermendel.com. I'm now working, Rebecca, thanks to my connections with everybody out there in this wonderful internet and oracle world. I'm just about to complete a Lenormand deck, and when that does come out, I'll let you know. And if you can bear another time.
I am so excited to hear that, because I know you will put a spin on it, a twist on it that is completely... that's going to be great, and just deepening the Lenormand. So that's exciting. I'm so excited to hear that. I can't wait.
It's exciting. And really, it's thanks to teachers like you and Tim and the various other people that I've met on the internet who've inspired an interest in what the next step is, because I think that when you look at both Lenormand and tarot, you get very different takes on your own journey, and I think it's really exciting. So I'm having a lot of fun doing that, and I'll let you know, Rebecca, when we
That is so exciting. Yeah, because I see the Lenormand as very straight up fortune telling, like very. So, I can't wait to see what you're going to do with this. How exciting!
Great. I'll let you know when we're ready.
Oh yeah, anytime for sure. And we will definitely have Heather's links to her websites up on our website, and also on our Facebook page, The Tarot Talk Show. Tim, how can the viewers get in touch with you?
You can get me on Facebook at Timothy's Tarot, or if you're in the Dover, Delaware area, I do readings out of Bell Book and Candle. The number's 678-4545.
All right. Well, thanks, Tim, as always, for joining us. And I'm your host, Rebecca Brown. You can get in touch with me by emailing the show, The Tarot Talk Show, at gmail.com, and by visiting my blog, 365daysoftarot.com. Be sure to check out the show website, The Tarot Talk Show, or the Tarot Talk, thetarottalk.com for all of our archive shows, guest bios, see what we're up to next. It's all up there. And check out our Facebook page, and you can even tweet us on the Twitter. That was a mouthful. We are pretty much everywhere at this point. So thanks so much for joining us, everybody. We will be back on Monday nights at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. Same time, same place, only on the Parrot Encounters Network. Thanks so much, everybody. So mote it be.
Bye.